Welcome to the regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's August 22nd, 2024, 7 p.m. Appreciate everybody coming out today on this relatively special occasion. At this time, we have the invocation by Pastor Roderick Barnes from Compass Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor, please rise and take off your hats.
Oh, great God, we thank you for the grace that has been on our country, the grace that has been on our state, and the grace that has been on our city. We're asking that you would exercise your right to reign and you would be at work in the hearts and minds of these, our city leaders. We're asking that you would imbue them with wisdom, sagacity, that you would be at work giving them prudence, and more than just eyesight. We pray that they would have great and supernatural insight for the leading and serving of this community. We pray that Helotes is a place where the kingdom comes, where people are loved and encouraged, where our youth are safe and they're growing up to be productive Americans. Most of all, people who love God and serve this country well. In Jesus' name, we all said,
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
On with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Barnes. Thank you. All right. Every once in a while, in the course of being a public servant, you get to do something really cool. Today is one of those days where we get to recognize the outstanding efforts and achievements of our Helotes Little League girls softball all-star team, to recognize their undefeated season and becoming the 2024 Texas West State champions. Let's give them a round. I have a proclamation, so I'd like to invite the entire team and coaching staff up front while we present this proclamation to you. Who's our pitcher? Right on. Pitching no hitters. Working on it. Right on. Well, come on up here. I'm sure there's people
face that way.
Dads want to take some pictures here. Go right in there. Go ahead. Where's my head coach? Right on there. Well, I'm going to read this and present it to you. This is a proclamation from the city of Helotes. This is whereas the sport of softball reflects the dynamic and spirited nature of American athletics and established itself as a treasured and enduring part of our nation's recreational heritage. And whereas the Greater Helotes Little League is a dedicated program that serves the youth of our community by fostering citizenship, discipline, teamwork, and physical well-being through the sports of baseball and softball. And whereas the city of Helotes takes great pride in the Greater Helotes Little League for its long-standing dedication to serving the youth of Helotes and the surrounding communities. And whereas this year's girls softball all-star team has completed an undefeated season, securing both the Section 3 championship and the District 19 championship. And whereas the Greater Little League Helotes all-star team has been declared Texas West State champions. Sorry. Absolutely. Congratulations. Absolutely. Congratulations. That is something to be proud of. And I'm sure you will cherish your entire life. I know on my basketball team, I went 0-74. That's such a fun memory. Want to get a picture? Go ahead. Squeeze on, girls. Squeeze them tight. Just out of the way. How about that? Perfect. There we go. All right. How about that? There you go. soon to be 12U world champions.
All right. That's good. One more. Top shelf. All right.
Now, the best news for you all is you don't have to suffer through the entire meeting. If you want to leave at any time, parents are super happy about that. We do not take offense to that, but you are welcome to stay for anything you want. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. I know, this is so riveting. I don't want to stay. So it's budgets and numbers and like zoning. I mean, this is so riveting. I don't know why anybody would want to stay. EDC's here. Public Works is here. Good stuff. And then there were three. And our regular Padre.
I should have put their recognition at the end
Oh, there we go.
next time.
No, don't want to make them suffer. They got things to do and worlds to conquer. But to decide. Excellent. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to citizens to be heard. We have one person that is signed up, Mr. Blaine Lopez. Come and state your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Blaine Lopez. I reside at 13110 Trotting Path here in Helotes. So as y'all know, most of y'all know, I'm board president of the EDC here in Helotes, but I'm also a father of a sophomore at O'Connor. And so as any father should do, I decided to drive my daughter to embarrass her on her first day of school there at O'Connor. And, you know, I know it's still under construction, and I know it's not finished, but it took me about from the point where you come out of Iron Horse on 1560 onto Bandera Road to get to Leslie, it was almost 30 minutes. Yeah, just getting through that little stretch of roadway, which is probably a quarter mile. So I said, man, there's got to be a better way. And I know, again, it's going to get better. It was the first day of school, but at the same time, it's kind of a glimpse into the future. If our population continues to grow and our capacity, the new capacity we have on Bandera gets eaten up, it could become reality every day. So this is an idea, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's came up with this idea. I saw that Northside had their replat on the agenda tonight, which I'm totally in support of, but I was hoping maybe there'd be some Northside reps here today. But if we can figure out a way to get that loop road that goes around O'Connor to connect back into Bandera so that we can complete that loop, then you could actually have a right in, right out. So you peel off all the traffic that's coming north of the turnaround there at 1560 and have them be able to access into O'Connor, taking a right in and then of course a right out to get out of there. So it's just an idea, and everything starts with a discussion. And I wanted to get those discussions going just to see if there's a reality. I know there's utilities there. Obviously, you can see them above ground, but you know, I've dealt with building roadways where there's utilities. Everything can be relocated, and then I think there's even opportunity that we could play this into our park, existing park that we have here right behind City Hall over here, to maybe even add in some additional park space in there in this area that kind of becomes a little bit unusable for Northside. And maybe some additional parking, so we're not having to come through the City Hall parking lot to get back to that park. So I think there's some positives in here that could happen. And in the last one, because I know I'm running out of time, God forbid, you know, we have any need for emergency services into O'Connor, whether it be fire or police. This gives them almost a direct access out their front door to get into O'Connor without having to go all the way down to Bandera, then all the way down to Leslie, and all the way down to the Loop Road to get to the school. So this would almost give them a back door in there, coming out the front door where they're located. So again, just an idea. I'm not here to oppose or anything on our agenda. It's more of just to kind of get the thoughts going of things that maybe we can do here in the future.
Certainly appreciate your comments, sir. And it's not the first time that has been brought up, but there are some issues with that, but we'll have to reserve those for a time when we're discussing that. But thank
Okay,
you very much.
thank you.
Okay, at this time, looking for a motion in a second to approve consent agenda items number 4 through 6, unless somebody wants to pull an item.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve consent agenda items 4 through 6 as written.
Motion by Sanders, second by Cato. No discussion is needed. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 4 through 6 as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And now for the mayor's report. Some text dot improvements. Surprise, surprise. As soon as they tell us a date, it's like the very next day they tell us, well, except for the 2-week delay that we were holding off until you made that announcement, and now we want to spring it on you for the very 12th time in a row. We have had a delay apparently with the signaling. Perhaps you've seen the drilling that's been going on and the core drilling. Why they didn't do that 9 months ago, I don't know. But they did do some paving over the last couple of nights. I am told by a supervisor that I feel much more confident in. She has been speaking with the contractor to move some of the equipment and get the paving completed. Like if you're going to turn into the Home Depot, for example, as well as today, we got the 3rd northbound lane opened and the cones actually removed. The 3rd southbound lane has been paved. We are supposedly going to finish most of the paving tonight and perhaps all of the striping, although they can't promise all the striping tonight, but it was the latest and the greatest as of this morning. We continue to have meetings on Friday and we'll continue to track that, but it looks like a couple more weeks. This morning, traffic was much better than first morning to your issues lane. And now with this 3rd lane open and with the curb construction completed between Walmart and Bill Miller's, that should also alleviate some of the traffic there. So we're going to get a chance to review how the traffic actually falls out before we make any major changes. There is a special car seat event held and sponsored by Corporal Ortiz, who has done a fantastic job working with the community on literally dozens of events. And this will be a child car seat installation and safety event. Helotes Fire Department and Public Works and TxDOT and the University of Health will be part there. We'll be checking car seats and make sure that everybody's got them installed correctly. This will happen on September 21st at the Walmart from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And again, special appreciation for Corporal Ortiz for putting that together. Also, we're announcing the Helotes Halloween Boo Bash will be Friday, October 18th at Helotes City Hall. So check into our website, check into our app, My Helotes app, and get all your information. It was a smashing, well, last year we had
Some weather.
some weather that kind of rained on our parade a little bit, but I was going to say something about Smashing Pumpkins, but I guess I'll just pass on that. People probably won't get that musical reference. So
That's one of my favorite bands. I would have gotten it.
there we go. And finally, which is a little bit ad hoc on here, we have a very special announcement. It's not listed here, but I'm going to go ahead and announce the newest edition of our interim city administrator, Mr. Henry Hayes. It comes to us. He is a resident here in the Bear County and Shorts area, but he was a city town manager in Massachusetts with about $110 million budget, school district, and 7 collective bargaining agents, groups, unions. Great amount of experience, and it's the 2nd full week with us, and he's doing a fantastic job. And we got a great team working here, and so everybody, welcome, Mr. Henry Hayes.
Welcome, sir.
This time, looking for a motion and a second to discuss and take action on item number 8 as written.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Merchant,
I'll second.
second by Sanders. Sir.
No issues with this. This, kind of one of those things needs to be done. So, they did all the right things to do what they needed to do, and planning and zoning was fully supportive of this. No issues.
So yes, of course. You're there? Okay. Sir.
No, I don't have anything to add. P and Z made a unanimous vote in favor of it. It logically makes sense to why they're replatting it with some of the extension of their ag program stuff at O'Connor High School. So it makes sense. But just for a second, Belena, I don't know the circumstances, but that seems like a great idea. That's all I got.
Any comments? No? Sir. Any comments on your part? Okay. Well, no additional commentary. All in favor of approving item number 8 as written, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion in a second to discuss and take action on item number 9 as written.
Mr. Mayor, I move we discuss and take action on agenda item number 9 as written.
Motion by Sanders, second by
I'll second.
Merchant. Yes, sir.
So can we break this up into 3 different individual votes?
Absolutely, we certainly can. Let's hold discussion on the entirety of it, and then we can vote individually on the items. We are being handed out, for those of you online, a updated picture of the Business and Visitor Center and the signage and the exterior. Mr. Goolsby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
All right. With us today is Glenn Goolsby, the Executive Director of EDC. And I think probably appropriate if we start with presentation.
So the document that I handed out was produced this afternoon after receiving an email from a prior councilman. I also reached out to EDC, had a meeting last night, and we brought it up for discussion, and the direction was given to amend the verbiage of the sign, if that is the direction of council. So we definitely wanted to have that option on the table. Because as it was presented in your packet, it was the Helotes Economic Development Center. And so we're proposing to change it to the Helotes Business and Visitor Center. There was a preference to add business on there first, because that is the primary purpose of the facility, but we did incorporate the visitor component. I know I had received a couple of questions on the overall height of, that's called the arch way on there. And I did want to point out that there are at least 2 other projects within eyesight of our building, and that's both the Burger King at the Shell Station and then Twin Brother Burgers, who both received approval for their signage, and the sign is above the roof line in a way very similar structure to what we've proposed here tonight.
Turning it back to me.
Yes. I'm done.
So as far as the site plan goes about the layout inside, that's pretty much what you guys had kind of showed us before. So me personally, I don't have any issue with that. Exterior lighting, which is the second item under review. Again, you're following city ordinances code. So again, no problem. So I'm really glad that the EDC had this discussion last night. I wasn't at the meeting, and so and I was concerned because this is more than an EDC. This is, you know, a business and visitor center. So I like the wording. I will ask you the question: if you tried to throw EDC in there abbreviated, was it too busy? Was it too?
It was, and then not everyone knows what EDC means.
Yeah. Okay. As far as the variance we're asking for, and I know P&Z, you know, highlighted those as well. I'm okay supporting, me personally supporting it. You're barely, when it comes to the sign size, height and width, you're barely just over, right? And then I look at how far away you guys are from Bandera, and Blaine, at some time, I do expect traffic to get back to the speed limit on Bandera Road. I will tell you, there's times on Bandera, I I can get from Shell gas station all the way to 1604, actually going 45 miles an hour. So, but you guys are so far back, I think it's appropriate to ask for the variance. And I really like the design. To me, the design is very fitting of Helotes, right? It's got a little country to it. I like it. I don't have any issues now that we've brought this up. So I'll pass it on to the next council member.
Which would be Councilman Merchant.
That was me.
So I like that you guys from the original design shrunk it down a little bit. That's I think that's in the best interest of the community. Not that it's like the neon sign versus everybody else's sign, right? So I think that's a good thing. I do agree with Mr. Sanders. You are a ways away and we need to advertise and we need to be able to support this. I will say, and back to my original comments when we started all this, this is like we're doing a lot to a building that isn't ours, or isn't yours.
Yes, sir.
And that's really my heartburn with the whole project. I wish in one hand and figure it out in the other, you know what I mean? But it's what it is at this point. And we put a lot of money into this. So yeah, it is what it is at this point. So those are my comments.
I was at the meeting last night, and I'm glad to see that you did add the word visitor back into the sign, because just looking back at how the project was originally presented since June of 2023, all of your agendas, your agenda item request forms, your strategic work plans, your quarterly reports to the council have always said visitors and business center, or Helotes visitors and business center. And I know last night your board president said it would be kind of weird to put visitor before business. So I'm not sure why the order of the words has changed all of a sudden, because even in your strategic plan that we're going to be looking at next month, it says visitors and business center. Why have we kind of swapped?
So a lot of it came, there was a vote taken based on 5 different names. And so the one that was in the packet is the Helotes Economic Development Center. So that was the one that actually won out on when we took a vote. And then after receiving the email from former Councilman Massey, reconsidered and decided to at least go back closer to what we initially had. And that was really a placeholder. We didn't know what else to call it in the beginning. We never had those discussions on what the sign was going to say until more recently in the last 2 to 3 months. But there is, I think, more of the center is primarily a business center. So we've got 7 co-working office. It is a revenue generator for us. And then just a small component of it is a visitor center. So we don't even have staffing really for that component.
I would tend to agree on this point that you're bringing up. It is primarily a visitor center primarily a business center of which the EDC will be occupying one office. Also, the Chamber of Commerce is occupying an office, and there's other businesses occupying in there. So it is a business center, and that's the whole purpose of what we're doing it. The Historical Society, I understand they have a donation, but they are not a rent paying, but it is servicing as a function of that and being a visitor center. So identifying it, I am personally fine with. I know it's your all's vote to determine, but it seems appropriate to include it, but to identify it primarily as the business center and visitor center. And quite honestly, if you take a look at the way it flows and flip-flop the words, it actually flows a little bit this way in size and shape and scope of the signage and its primary function.
Sure. No issues. I like the design, and I think the wording is spot on. Good.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with Dave.
I'd like to ask one last comment. So I know there are some concerns about we don't own the building, but at the end of the day, we want you to be successful, right? We want this effort, this activity, this endeavor to be successful, break even, and bring the opportunity to the community, right, to be an incubator. So,
Yes, sir.
so that's for me a big, strong reason to continue to support this. So.
And we think this is going to be our long-term home. So we are in ongoing discussions with the property owner when he is willing to sell, that we are first in line.
Can I ask the calculations on the size?
Yes.
Is that, because it really doesn't annotate it on this diagram. I'm assuming what we are calculating is the square footage of the rectangle and the semicircle of the actual sign, and not the kind of looks like striped background.
So the software I have actually couldn't yet take the square footage of the inside. So I did the rectangle and then took out 2 triangles at the top corner, which gave me a pretty close estimate of 52. I actually believe we've been talking with the sign contractor. It's going to be below that. It's likely 48 square feet is the actual sign.
Which is what you're allowed on
Correct. Yes, sir.
without variance, but this
Yes,
would,
sir.
in case the square inches just fall above it, to a amount not to exceed 52 square feet is what we're talking about here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the final item is just a commentary. It is a peculiarity about our ordinance on how it's written on sign height, and we have a limit there on 20 feet, but it is from where it's calculated and where you're attaching it. So we don't actually exceed the 20 feet on this, except for the height of where it's attached from the lower roof line, correct? So the ultimate top of
Is
this
18 on this particular sign as presented. The top of the arch.
So we got a connection issue on where it's attached to the building and the calculation of height from there, but the total sign height is less than the 20 foot. So
Yes.
it's, you know, if you close one eye, it fits within the ordinance. You close the other eye and you're like, but on where it's connected. So I think technically, to be safe, we can take a look at this as a variance approval as put in the design, realizing that its overall height does not exceed our 20 foot. So it'd be my recommendation that it proceed on that basis if there's any commentary. We do have an exterior lighting component on this, but that is not requiring a variance, correct?
Correct.
So it's just the submittal of your lighting plan within ordinance, right?
Yes, sir.
Just seeking final approval. And we talk size, and then of course the site plan and building remodel concept. Are there any comments on the site plan and building remodel concept? Okay. Discussion wise, does anybody feel we need to have 3 separate votes?
I know I was the one that brought that up initially prior to seeing this. So since I didn't change my motion, I'm going to press forward with my motion. We'll do it all.
Keep it all in one. Okay, fair enough. But we do have, compared to what was submitted, we have to amend your initial motion to approve with the subsequently submitted change to Helotes Business and Visitor Center. Because originally it was submitted with the Helotes Economic Development Center.
So I have a question, Mr. Mayor. So is it because the EDC falls under oversight from the city? Because I know generally we don't approve or disapprove content and text or words on signage, but I know it's a little bit different with the EDC. So I'd like to kind of get a maybe discuss that.
We're doing this just to cover bases and safety. It was submitted one way, but we're approving it a different way, particularly when point of discussion was on the actual wording of it. And because it is a function of the city and a wholly owned corporation where we are approving the actual verbiage, seems warranted to adjust your motion to approve, basically just to
I'm willing to do that.
amend the motion to approve as written, with the exception of adopting the verbiage as submitted today to state Helotes Business and Visitor Center.
Okay. So do we need to vote first on my original motion?
Nope, you need to.
So I move we amend agenda item number 9 to approve the amended wording of from Helotes Economic Development Corporation to Helotes Business and Visitor Center.
Okay,
That was a lot.
which was seconded by Merchant to accept her. Okay, now we have an amended motion and we're gonna go ahead and vote on that. All in favor of approving item number 9 as written with the stated amendment of the signage to read Helotes Business and Visitor Center to include the site plan, building remodel concept, the exterior lighting, and the variances to size and height for the signage. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. This time, there's a motion and a second to discuss and take action on item number 10 is written.
So moved.
Motion by Merchant, second by
I'll second it.
Sanders. This is a fairly simple
This happens every year.
resolution to authorize the mayor to negotiate and execute an animal care services agreement between the city and Daisavola Chavano Veterinary Clinic for on-call animal care. The details are in your packets, but is there anything you want
No, I have nothing in particular. I mean, this happens every year. We get a bump in cost every year. So it's expected.
So this is actually though renewing the contract, right? So it was like a 3-year with like 2-year extensions or something like that, right? So this is going to be negotiating a brand new contract and correct?
well, yeah, well, you have a new contract, but they're stated 3 or 5%. Daniel,
So it will be starting a new contract, right? So my name's Justin Helotes, Public Works Operations Supervisor. So it'll be a new contract. It'll be for 1 year for right now with a 2 1-year extensions.
Okay.
So
And did we competitively bid that by chance or not?
we don't competitively bid it. We don't go over the $50,000 threshold to competitively bid for what we spend every year.
Okay.
We did go out to 6 other clinics to see if they would offer these services. All 6 said no.
That makes it easy.
So
that makes sense.
No other,
I have nobody else to go to, so.
no other comments. So thank you, Justin.
Sanders, any comments? No. Okay. All in favor of approving item number 10 as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I pledge to sign us a contract for animal care services. All right, looking for motion in a second to discuss and take action on item number 11 as written.
So moved.
Motion by Merchant, second by
Second.
Sones. Yes, sir.
So we're gonna fix roads and the guy who's gonna make this happen for us happens to be standing at the podium. Good. Would you mind breaking this down for us a little bit?
So this is going to be for crack sealing, and this will be for Helotes Park Estates and Helotes Ranch Acres, right? So what this is to help seal the road from any cracks or developments as they wear over the years, right? So this came in a little bit above over what we originally projected. We originally projected about high 90s. So 110 is well within our budget for the year. And this is just general preventative maintenance we do all over the city on every single one of our roads.
Understood. And this is covered by, we have a money set aside in a
Yes.
tax.
So this will come out of our street maintenance sales tax that we've budgeted for this year.
Very good. Okay, just want to make
Which is dedicated solely to
street
roads,
maintenance.
streets and maintenance.
Right.
Yes.
So good. I just want to make that a public record thing if anybody didn't know that. So nice job. Well done. I have no issues with this.
Thank you.
No, I'm good.
Okay, with no further discussion, all in favor of approving item number 11 is written, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Justin. Appreciate it. At this time, I would like to invite the EDC Board of Directors or its Executive Director, We have some both here for the presentation and discussion on the proposed fiscal year 2025 City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation operating budget.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So I did revise the presentation from what was previously included in the packet. I noticed there after our EDC meeting last night, we had a couple of errors on there. So today is our first presentation to City Council. We made our actual second presentation to the EDC last night with no real changes to the budget. I know as we continue to do some interdepartmental transfers, we'll be fine tuning this before, I guess it's September 12th and then 26th. It'll come back before City Council. So this budget was developed with our revised strategic work plan, which will be coming to you guys next month as well for discussion and approval. On our sales tax, most of you are aware we have a 0.5% sales tax that goes to the EDC. We are a Type B corporation. For FYE 2025, we're projecting revenues to be just from sales tax around 2.5 million, noting that $1 million is anticipated to be remitted as part of a Chapter 380 agreement. Other revenues combined, which would be mixed beverage, our membership agreement from the co-working center and interest earned, we anticipate being close to 205,000. So as the revenue breaks down from all of these sources, you can see sales tax for 2024 represents about 56% of our revenue, and that's the net sales tax to the EDC. 39% is remitted back out to the 380 agreement, and then 5% allocated to interest, and it's 0.5% on the current sublease. For next year, we maintain the same percentage of sales tax, but the amount rebated back to 380 is 37%, and then we go up to 2% on our sublease from 0.5.
Quick question here.
Yes, sir.
Just probably because it's easier to hit this item. So how is our and your 2025 revenue breakdown?
Yes.
How are we only $45,000 for the sublease? I'm assuming that's all from the business center.
Yes, sir.
With
so we're figuring 70% occupancy for the first year. So that's where we're coming in with the 45.
Okay, because I know our projections from y'all were way higher than that, right?
Not way higher, but they were 60,000, I believe. So I'd have to go back and look.
First year. Okay. Okay. All right, go ahead.
So we decided to kind of present both the tax and our expenditures a little bit different this year. So you can see the historical trend. So I just went back the last 10 years, and the dark blue would be our net sales tax, and then the lighter kind of a green or gray on here is the amount rebated. So you can relatively, our sales tax has been consistently increasing up until 22. And the difference between 2022 and 2023, notated to the EDC, is that I think the interest rate, it went up 525 basis points. So for an SBA loan, prior to 2022, the interest rates were 2.4%. They are currently over 12%. They can go up to 16.5%. On commercial loans, previously they were 4.75%, and now many are over 10%. So it's definitely putting a pinch not only on mortgages, but it's a pinch on renovations, on commercial finish outs and new projects.
But this would be the sales tax revenue. It wouldn't really affect that because it would be businesses that are already open and collecting in on previously established.
So we lost
plans.
So we did lose several sales tax producing businesses during that period.
What would be your
but
estimate?
The reason we don't
of
have the
businesses total
growth
lost?
is why the interest impacts that.
So, and I think this would impact our big 380 agreement.
BFS is,
Sure. And
Yes.
that was,
Because of their business model and who they support.
that is correct.
and you can see, I think it's just worth pointing out, there's some great analytics on here. the size of the gray bar is directly proportional to, let's call it the success of BFS. Because that is our 380 agreement bag. I
Right.
just have the one. And so what I find interesting is that while the total of our tax has gone down, kind of leveled out the last 3 years, the size of that gray bar decreased, but the net stayed roughly the same over the last 3 years. This would be a testament to our other businesses actually surviving and increasing their sales. So while we did take a hit from our largest business, our smaller mom and pop shops have actually been doing fairly well. Now, I have done a lot of discussions with local businesses, and they would beg to argue with that situation. But as far as sales tax dollars and revenues, and the big problem going on their expenses. So that's really a function on there. But just to clarify and provide some insight, thank you for that.
The next slide just shows the net sales tax. So not much of a change, but you kind of see where we are leveling out more on our sales tax. And then that's kind of what we're projecting moving forward. On the next slide, it was our total expenditures. Change this one to show what we budgeted versus what we actually spend, because typically there is a dramatic difference in some of these years. Especially the last probably 5 or 6 years. So we do try to be conservative in our expenditures, but we're planning to invest in new developments in Helotes when those happen to come before us. So this year, the total expenditures with the 380 agreement is projected to be 3.25 million. Next slide. And this one just shows the actual expenditures year over year for the last 10 years. Knowing that you're going to see a little bit more of a dramatic increase in 2025 to an extent. But 2024, we did have the debt service reduction too with the city, 325,000. And it was, and that's for this year. Okay, next one actually breaks it down with the debt service and with the debt relief package. And so the debt service that we have is really from the Old Town Improvement Project. I want to say 2027 is our last year of payment on that one. And then we had the pedestrian bridge, and then we had a small component with the water and sewer line. And that's really, honestly, I think where that 325 in the last few years too is focused on that particular debt service relief. So on the next one, we break it down from the adopted FY 2024 budget and what we anticipate year-end budget will be for 2024, and then showing you the comparative to 2025. If we're comparing 25 to what we adopted in 24, which I think is the more fair comparison to look at, we're going to spend 11% less, 11.5%.
So quick question for clarification on contractual services. Obviously you had planned in 24 for something major, didn't actually get it.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming these contractual services had to do with the construction of this building.
No.
What are we spending $1.6 million on contractual services?
But I will check real quick. Commodities.
Would have made sense if it was the building, because got adopted, but we didn't quite get it done.
No, I think it's the incentive. So the targeted incentive program that we had allocated 350,000 to, and we have not spent that yet. We are still in the negotiation with spending that money. So we're going to roll over an additional amount, which I'll kind of highlight too for our next fiscal year.
Okay.
So if we were looking at 25 compared to the projected year end, it would be a 26% increase, just for your information. Now, some of the big program changes, the tenant improvement grant, we definitely want to continue that. Right now, we have budgeted 150,000. 20,000 of that would be carried over from FY 2024, and the balance 130 could be for new projects. Marketing is a line item that we are increasing this year. We're kind of breaking it down into three different components: marketing the EDC and our resources, marketing available properties, and then promoting for tourism, which includes event marketing. The visitor center is, I have it on here because it's a big reduction. We had 330,000 this fiscal year, but next year we're projecting only having operating expense. There is a possibility that the final payment for the finish out may go into next fiscal year, but we'll kind of see how the next couple of weeks go.
So that's this line item 5228 visitor center, $30,000 for operations.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now for operations, that's different than for construction.
Yes.
Define what falls into this 30,000 of operations.
So that would be the internet, the utilities, all that. So truly, yes, operating expenses not for any type of construction.
Right. It's not staffing or anything like that. It's
no.
just the services.
No, sir.
Service. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes, sir. So the next slide goes through the targeted business incentive. So that's the one that we've allocated additional funding because we're anticipating multiple projects. So we've gotten that one up from 350,000 this year to 750 next year. The 380 agreement reimbursement, there's a $500,000 change, actually a reduction. We see that BFS seems to have leveled off in this environment. So we fully anticipate them generating this same volume of revenue and therefore the same reimbursement. Right now, we have a placeholder of 150 for parks and playground equipment. I know that could change. We're staying in contact with Public Works to see when we can release funding for the playground equipment upgrade here. We'll have the master plan, and then we want to also have funding for kind of the first phase, which we anticipate will be improvements to the parking area first. But so that line item may go up slightly for next year. On the next one is kind of looking, just recapping the revenues projected for 25. Overall, we're $2.7 million. We are anticipating transferring almost 550,000 out of our reserves to balance this year's budget. And then that'll put us then at 3.25 million for expenditures.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
Going back to your slide that shows your actual on 24 expenditures of 2.5 million versus budget 3.6. We spent nearly $1 million less than budgeted. What was the need to transfer $500,000 from reserves to cover expenses?
So that'll be for 2025 for
2024, also for 2023.
So it was in the budget when we approved it, but at this point we had not made that transfer from our savings to the kind of the revenue side of our budget. This year, I don't think we're going to have to do that. And a lot of that had to do with the BFS.
Okay, so it's not due to excess of expenditures, it's due to didn't transfer that from last year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we anticipate we're going to have about 63,000 excess revenue over expenditures this fiscal year to go into our reserve fund, which will put us right at 3.8 million, close to 3.9. And that's all I have for now. If there's any additional questions, happy to answer them.
With that reserve balance, and I know EDC doesn't work quite like a city. We have a reserve for like 9 months, 10 months. How long will that last? Ever?
But I would say it really depends.
It depends.
So our expenditures anticipated, if we count in the 380 reimbursement, is 3.2 next year. So it's going to be anywhere from 1 to 2 years, depending on how it falls.
I'm just curious.
I know for an EDC, if you want to report, the Texas Comptroller requires all economic development corporations to report what their revenues, expenses, and reserve fund balances are. And we are among the lowest. So a lot of them carry 20, $40 million in savings for projects. So
So
that is the intent of them.
And to be fair, to maybe help you out here a little bit, EDC doesn't really work on months of reserve. It's dollars, because if all of a sudden something happens, we lose our tax revenues, how much savings we still have to pay police and fire. If something happens there, that we have one employee and we could cut down all expenditures down to one salary, in which case that would be 38 years worth of.
Yes.
So we have roughly 30, let's call it 32 years worth of reserves on that, when you look at that aspect, so.
And then having enough to pay off debt service in the event something like that
debt.
happens.
Right. Central.
That was kind of the next question. What can we use that money for?
So
Debt service.
absolutely. That's
Okay.
in our budget, right? We have 325,000 that goes to the city for debt relief.
Yep.
In next year's budget, we're transferring 550,000 of that for incentives to lure new developments producing sales tax.
Good. Thank you.
Questions, start down here.
So thanks for the brief, Glenn. This would be even more meaningful when I see this strategic work plan, right? To make sure that funding is kind of lined up to the right line items, what your priorities are. So I know you gave us all rolled up numbers. I got a little bit geeky and actually went down into individual line items under contractual services. So I was just kind of looking things that I thought would line up to, what I always think of the 3 line of efforts that EDC does, right? Now, first one is marketing, getting businesses here, right? Proactive, reaching out to them. So that's marketing. So I was just individual items. It looks like we've allocated more money, a little bit more money on some of those tasks that are going up, but there's some going down. I guess are we locked in on those numbers? Are they locked in from a budget once the budget is approved that you can only spend so much on legal fees or things like that for the individual line items?
We can always do budget adjustments. So if it's within, say your bottom line contractual services doesn't change, you're just doing.
You're just moving money within contractual services.
That has always been able to be done by the EDC. If we're doing more categorical changes or increasing the amount of expenditures, doing a major budget adjustment, that has always come to council.
Okay. So thanks for the brief again, and I look forward to seeing the strategic work plan.
Okay.
Jen?
All my questions were answered in the presentation. Thank you.
Good presentation, thanks.
Matt, you were asking?
No, sorry, go ahead, but I'll come back.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks. It was a good presentation. I have a few questions. On what is the difference between the business improvement grant and the tenant improvement?
The business improvement grant is actually our e-commerce grant.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just a separate program. The retailer and tenant improvement grant is for tenant finish out for new and expanding businesses.
Okay. And then on the visitor center, just to clarify, during the workshop that you held in July, I know Councilmember Stones was there and our planning and zoning commissioner, Buck Russell, was there. I thought you said you would be coming back to council for approval on an additional funding request for the visitor center. And that's not the $30,000.
All the funding has been approved for the construction and finish out for the visitor center. And that is not going over the 300,000 threshold that was set.
Okay. So you're within budget.
Yes.
Okay. And then one thing that I wanted to mention, and this is just new information for me after having had attended a seminar on economic development. I have some concerns about some of the programs and some of the grants and projects. And it appears that some of them may not be completely in line with authorized uses of public fund expenditures. And I just want to make sure before we vote on the budget and your strategic plan that the city attorney take a look to make sure everything is compliant with Texas code.
Absolutely.
The input that I got from the legal department at the Texas Municipal League is there are some things that are kind of red flags.
So all of our programs are approved by the city attorney and do comply with the Type B corporation. I know had a conversation with Rich Whitehead, might have or Mayor Whitehead, sorry, that may address some of those issues. So the program documents may not have the same stipulations that you'll see in the state law, but the actual contracts that the applicants sign does have those stipulations. So whether it's revenue, it's investment, it's jobs created, all that kind of stuff is part of the final document.
In the repayment terms?
Repayment terms, so typically it's up to the discretion of the EDC. It is in the contract. If they do fail to meet one or all of the obligations, they can be required to remit all of their grant back.
Okay, I'd love to see
No,
some of these
absolutely.
agreements. The closest thing I saw was the agreement with the family food truck park.
So
And
you haven't seen the actual final agreement. You just saw the grant request.
just the grant request, it did have a schedule of jobs, but only for 1 year.
That is correct.
So as opposed to year 2, year 3, year 4, but definitely the repayment terms, it's, not something that can be left out.
Mhm.
And then some of the projects like the community art grant program is,
Those are fully allowed by the Attorney General. There is an Attorney General opinion. The biggest case that got a lot of attention,
Go hippo.
the Hutto Hippo. So the
Okay.
Hutto EDC paid for a giant hippo statue for the school district.
Mhm.
And that was deemed, a lot of that has to do with the size city we are. With a population of less than 20,000, anything the board of directors deems as a promotion of economic development is an allowed expenditure.
well, it still has to be compliant. And the legal
That is the
department at
state
TML
law.
says there's no
Yeah.
recent attorney general opinion that they're aware of.
Yeah, there is.
So if you have that, I would love to get a copy and email it to me.
So there are some things, and I remember giving you a call on some of the items we had there. Let's maybe we can assuage concerns by providing review of some documents you can see in the final form, as well as review of the I had some questions also on the artwork, particularly the size of it, and it turns out particularly in type B, economic development corporations have more latitude than type A EDCs. But perhaps what we can do is just schedule some time to be able to review those so that it can answer your questions in specific detail.
Yeah, that'd be very helpful.
But to the point, an extra encouragement to make sure that all projects and all contract documents as required by the AG are included.
Absolutely.
I think a check on that also, right, is how much can you spend without council approval? On
So
any
we can
given,
only spend 10,000
Right.
or well, less than 10,000.
9,900.
right, so like, you
Every-
couldn't do a hippo if you wanted to without, unless you kept it under $10,000.
No.
Lotus hippo.
Right, right?
That is
That
correct.
is correct.
No,
Okay.
anything over the $9,999 comes to council. All
That's another
contracts.
check on, I guess, a
Yeah, no,
contract
all
that's out there.
contracts and all programs that we do have been reviewed and approved by the city attorney. So if there happens to be a non-compliant part, then I will defer to him on, how he interprets it. But I do know for the art, so that can fall under your marketing budget. So anyway, 10% of your overall revenues can be spent on marketing.
Right.
And marketing has a different definition for the promotion of business development. But I'll be happy to
Okay.
provide you that information.
Yeah. That'd be great.
And then also, speaking of marketing, this is actually where I was gonna go. Like, you guys you're increasing your budget like $20,000 for marketing next year. It's pretty significant.
Yes, sir.
I like to see that. You guys had a robust discussion on that last night. Like,
Yes, sir.
how did, one more time, what are you doing with that?
Okay, so we're gonna, in a sense, divide the money up into different components and have different campaigns. So one of them will be promoting the EDC and the programs that we offer. So us as a resource to the business community.
Okay.
We're gonna have one bucket set aside for promotion of available lease spaces, available land. Maybe we have money in here for conceptual design, so we can start pumping that information out. And then we'll have a bucket set aside for actually marketing the city and events and tourism, things to come see and do in Helotes.
Oh, good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we're hiring third-party contractors this next year to make sure all this gets implemented. You'll see all those contracts.
Thank you. All right. Well, no further discussion. We look forward to reviewing your strategic plan at the next meeting
Yes,
and the final presentation of the budget for approval on the 26th. Okay, thank you, Glenn. At this time, we're going to update and discuss the proposed fiscal year ending 2025 municipal operating budget. Invite Daniel. There are a couple of items that I want to point out from conversation we had in this last meeting, and then Daniel will cover some other details as well. The 2 points I want to clarify is one, I had alluded to that we were fine tuning some numbers, particularly with insurance projections and also some court costs, and that if we had extra money, I would wanted to direct that towards cost of living adjustment. It did in fact turn out that way. So our previous presentation was 1% cost of living plus up to 2% merit distribution. We're now presenting this tonight with 3% cost of living plus 2% merit. Again, the 2% being decided on by division heads, each person getting either 1, 2, or 3% based upon, but department-wide averaging 2%. So we'll have 5% on average raises. And the second item, which is a announcement I've been waiting years to make, is that after years of fighting and battling insurance costs, we instituted in the first year that I was mayor, we did the subscription service for ER and urgent care. And the idea of that is to provide a lower cost than what insurance would be out of pocket for our employees to use. Prestige was the awarded contract, or the Alamo urgent care. So they get flat rate, and then that is not even submitted. So it's not even an insurance claim. We had other claims, however, and so we took some hits the past 2 years. Last presentation showed our expected cost, which was an increase, but not as big an increase as we anticipated. And since then, we got another bid from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. The great news about this is that we are finally going to be able to, it's going to be a greater cost than we had last year, but a slightly less cost than what our renewal was going to be for United Healthcare. So our city cost will actually decrease ever so slightly. But we have had 4 tiers of insurance, and last couple of years, we've been paying for tier 3 insurance. This will allow us to be able to provide all our employees tier 2 insurance. Generically, what does that mean? It's both under the HMO program, but instead of $5,000, $10,000 deductibles, it will be $3,000, $9,000 deductibles. Instead of individual out-of-pocket maximums of $6,300 or $6,250, it's going to be $3,500. So significantly better insurance coverage for our employees. Everybody that was individual only on tier 3 will now get tier 2 paid for them. Everybody that was paying out of their pocket for tier 2 will be able to get tier 2 without paying anything for it. So that'll be an extra $170 a month or thereabouts that they'll have as a de facto raise from decreased insurance costs. And anybody that wants to downgrade to our tier 4 HSA will, instead of getting $169 in the account per month, and the HSA will be getting $300 a month in their HSA. And relatively same benefits as what they've had this year. So this is huge in the sense of we're turning the corner and being able to get better benefits at the same or lower cost for our employees. And plans finally coming to fruition, but tonight's presentation has those 2 elements accounted for.
Well, as the mayor said, really the biggest updates that we did do to this new proposed budget is the additional 2% on the COLA side
in regards to the salary projections. We had tightened up also some of the healthcare costs in departmentally on this budget, but as the mayor went ahead and said, Blue Cross Blue Shield did come back with a rebid on us, which was a significantly lower cost. We are going to continue to work in that projection, as we move forward in regards to their proposal, and really just kind of update our healthcare, even tied to what you see today. So we anticipate the budget before you will probably change slightly in regards to the healthcare costs, but in a direction that is beneficial to the city and the budget. And that's kind of the two biggest updates we've, put in what's before you right now. As we move towards September the 12th, we know there'll be a lot of tightening as well in regards to expenditures and kind of one of our last go arounds departmentally. But the biggest changes that between August the 8th and today is the additional 2% on the COLA, and then also tightening up the healthcare side as well.
Questions? Okay, there is one more item right now. If you look where we're sitting as of today, we show $100,000 surplus, but this is before our transfer into capital replacement. So between now and next meeting, we will have had open enrollment for which we will be able to get our final numbers on insurance. And we actually anticipate being able to then put a final pin and have an estimated amount that we'll be deducting off of our actual expenses, which will lower expenses, to be able to allocate at least the full 190 to our capital improvement, which will balance our budget. Additionally, we have one more look at our sales tax and property tax. So we'll be able to tell you can anticipate change on those top two items in the charts before you that will allow possibly us to go ahead and adjust to the full $200,000 to capital transfer for future purchases. Either way, we'll have those finalized numbers such that next presentation on the 12th will show a $0 surplus and a balanced budget for your final review. And then on the 26th will be the actual vote that per the rules require a supermajority on there, which will require 4 positive votes. So come with your questions, or if you have any questions now, would be very helpful. If there's anything to know now, as opposed to on the 12th, and certainly as opposed to on the 26th. So open it up one more time for any commentary.
I just got this at a quick glance, so I mean, I just saw this tonight. So quick glance. So proposed, I'm at administration.
Okay.
Proposed salaries adopted for 2024 is this number, and then we're going to drop 38,000.
Yeah, we
salaries.
moved one employee over from the administration side to the public works side.
Good.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then I like what, as the mayor mentioned, that health insurance went from there's an $8,000 decline in that. And then the other question I had was, okay, $10,000 tuition reimbursement. Is that just one $10,000 pot of money for all the employees?
Currently, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a program we instituted.
Right, I remember. I just wanted to make sure that it was for all employees, not just like,
Yeah, it's
we
not
could
just
send
one.
somebody to college for a year,
Yeah, it's available to all employees.
I got you. So I just wanted to make sure that was for all and not one. That's all. I just couldn't. Thank you for refreshing my memory. Those are my questions at a glance.
Okay.
I will go ahead and point out, we probably need to make adjustment on the bilingual pay to the amount. This is, I think, is what currently people have submitted, but we might need to make an allowance because we may need to adjust that in case there's other people to take into account that they go ahead and submit, because this was something we're supposed to have had implemented by last year.
Yeah.
I know I've already committed that if somebody who was with us applies and they pass, we were going to go ahead and retro pay them for that to make it right, simply because it was admin's fault have not had that plan instituted in a timely manner. So we may want to take a look and stick a couple $1,000s there just to prepare for in case other people,
Definitely, I can take a look at that. And we can-
but that's a very minor item that's not gonna impact our bottom line there.
Yeah. It's just that bottom line in the personnel, right? That's a significant drop from one year to the next. And
Yep, well,
there's a lot of
the vast majority of that is
savvy business.
that's that, and we took one personnel out of this department, put in the other. So if you look at public works, they'll increase.
Gotcha. I didn't get that far. Just looking here. Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. That closes that discussion, and finally, we'll have the update and discussion on our proposed fiscal year end 2025 municipal fee schedule. Thoughts, discussion? Michael, do we have any additional fees we've been looking at? I know one thing we were looking at was the deck fee, to lower that from $425 to $100, because it's basically same time and cost as a fence inspection. That's the one item. Did we address?
It needs an engineering thing. Is that different? A deck 20 feet off the ground? I mean, does that require an engineer, or can you just $100 deck fee?
Oh, it's gonna have plans submitted for review, that's what you're asking.
And then you apply the appropriate fee?
Based upon what they're building. Yeah, so I guess,
Right, so a deck 2 feet off the ground is different than a deck 20 feet off the ground. We have those in here in Helotes. You know what I'm saying? So that fee would be different. So how do you make a $100 deck fee?
well, it's actually, when you submit your plans, it's still a plan review. And if your deck requires something being engineered, you had that engineered in the plans that you're submitting, so you paid for that yourself to have that design. If for some reason you're building off a cliff.
Yeah.
But once you've got your engineering and you're submitting your plans, we're reviewing those plans, and then we're coming out and take a look at, yep, there is the foundation, just like I said it was in the plans that
Okay.
were approved. So
That makes sense. Thank you.
we are looking at the stormwater categories. We have 5 categories in there. We only use one.
Yeah, so a big part of the fee schedule adjustment that we're doing, we're actually gonna delete items. And then to your point, we are gonna change some fees, for example, like the deck that you mentioned. However, we are gonna compare to other cities, so we're not gonna just do a flat rate of 100.
All right.
We will do some research, so.
Discussion.
We had this item because last time, there were some concerns brought up, particularly on, fees for 65 and older.
So I didn't submit anything, right? But I had looked at it, and I actually looked at other city, fees and stuff. So I didn't see any other cities do it, which doesn't mean something we could look at. But the whole reason that, and I think council member Sones talked about it as well. The thing was that there's a fee that if you are not handicapped, or let's say you're older, beyond considered, 65 and older, you're more than likely gonna have to pay the fee, when other people who don't fit in that category can very well do the tree trimming themselves, right? Where they don't have to pay the $28.50. But we never really did talk about the handicap piece. And then I just don't know what the ramifications are of that, and how do you declare, and how does that change your permitting process? And at the end of the day, we're only talking about $28.50. So that was what I was kind of focused on, but I didn't present that to staff, because I didn't know what the collateral effect of how does that discombobulate our processes, and how would you go through all that? I
think
thought it
probably
might be a topic of discussion at another time after we get through this process, and then me and another council member could take it, or we could add it now if it's too late. It's just, I don't know what.
It's
Everyone
open for
thinks
discussion right now to be included for our final presentation. So in my mind, as I put some thought to that, I would think the best thing to do is, if you're handicapped, you can get a handicap exemption because you have to have somebody else, as opposed to choosing to have somebody else.
Correct.
That might be probably the easier and cleaner addition of a handicapped exemption for tree trimming. And if you all want that, we can just go to put it, it's just $28. I keep trying to tell people, when they tell us, you guys are just trying to make money us on fees. We're not trying to nickel and dime people. We have costs that we have to cover on our inspectors. This fee is really just so that when a contractor comes in, that they are acknowledging the oak wilt and the other.
It's a form of regulating them, right? To make
So
sure
the
they do
city
the due
knows.
diligence.
And also to ensure that they take the debris off as opposed to leaving it for brush pickup, which continues
Correct.
to sometimes be a problem. Speaking of which, just as an aside note, brush and bulk pickup for this month has gone much smoother citywide. So I think the other things are getting there. But speaking of brush, but that's something we can go. That's some direction you guys want to give us. I am fine with submitting for a handicapped exemption on tree trimming.
I think I could support that. It's just a matter of how you define. So I know one city, they defined it if you are like 100% veteran, disabled rated. And then there's some other national ways, and I don't know what stand the city would use to validate that. And then that obviously has to be incorporated in your online permitting process or.
Right.
So there's a little bit of challenges. We can always adjust fee schedules. So it's not something that is dependent. It's just this every year we do have this. So we can certainly put that in. If that's what you want to direct us to, we can address that. If there was are there any other specific fees that anybody wants addressed? Okay. We can go with that. There can't be that many permits. It's gonna tank us that we can't do that. But let's proceed, and then we'll bring it forward for your consideration, and then final approval on the 26th again.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right. That brings us to the conclusion of this evening. So agenda. We are going to adjourn. The time is 8:16. Thank you all. Drive safely.